Hello and welcome to EEXSport Talk. I am your host, Gift C Enyadike Jr. Back finally with a new episode. It has been a while, and that's largely because my dad he's been taking the loss of Mo Salah from Liverpool. His announcement of leaving. He's been taking it really hard, and it's been nearly impossible to get him out of his room. So I just had to man the ship myself. But anyway, today's episode we're going to talk about WrestleMania 42, which is set for the 18th and 19th, which at the time of this recording is literally this weekend, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. And before anyone jumps in with the usual, wrestling is fake, congratulations. You are aware of something that has been public knowledge for well over a century. Like, you're not saying anything groundbreaking, guys. And I don't think that sports fans have any business complaining about predetermined results, especially you, football fans. You know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend you don't. WrestleMania. This is the WWE's biggest show of the year. As someone who's been watching for 16 years, which is crazy. 2010, that's when I started properly watching. 16 years ago, my goodness, time. I should be unbelievably excited, but I'm not. I'm not. And I'm going to explain why. The road to WrestleMania it's not even been bumpy, all right? There's potholes everywhere, cracks. It's undrivable. That's how bad it is. Let's start at the very top, all right? The biggest example, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. Cody Rhodes currently is the reigning undisputed WWE champion, and Randy Orton is going to challenge him for that belt after winning the Elimination Chamber. On paper, this should be a complete slam dunk. A complete On paper, this should have been a complete slam dunk. The history is there. Cody is second generation. He's the son of the late great American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Randy Orton, he is third generation, the son of Cowboy Bob Orton and grandson of Bob Orton Sr. Now, the personal history between them is Randy was Dusty Rhodes' final ever WWE pay-per-view opponent. Cody Rhodes, his first televised match in the WWE was against Randy Orton. In 2009, during Randy's legendary bald serial killer run that is just described as like some of the best year of his career because he was just unbelievably evil in that time. He famously punted John Cena's father in the head. That was terrifying things, and the things he did to the McMahon family in the first part of the year, just evil. He was a terrorist, okay? At the time, he had a faction called Legacy with Ted DiBiase Jr., another second generation star who didn't fan out as well, and Cody Rhodes. 2009, the two of them part of the same faction, part of the same group. And since then, they've had this relationship, this mentor-student relationship. They're practically brothers, both inside and outside of the ring. So there's almost 20 years of history between them. And somehow, when we finally get this thing, this one-on-one match, Cody's finally reached the level of being a top champion in the company. Randy's obviously been that guy for a long time. They completely fumbled it. It started off interesting enough. Randy is currently chasing his 15th world title. He has a total of 14 world titles, puts him in the same vein as Triple H, who also has 14 world titles, behind Ric Flair with 16, and John Cena, who became a 17 champion last year. So Randy's chasing number 15. And he recently turned heel in the build-up to WrestleMania. A heel in professional wrestling is a bad guy, a villain. He turned heel against Cody. He viciously attacked him. And then over the next couple of weeks, he's been trying to kind of justify his actions. And he's also been seen having phone calls with somebody, taking advice from somebody. Now, fans were speculating that he might be talking to The Rock, who had a really big feud with Cody Rhodes a couple years ago and was also involved in John Cena's heel turn last year, we'll talk about that one later. Some people were even speculating it might be Ted DiBiase Jr. making a comeback after recent legal trouble. That was a wild guess, but who knows? And some people were even predicting potentially the return of Mr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon himself, who, as some of you may be aware, was ousted from the company due to his current legal situation with his former paralegal. So who did they choose to be the mystery person he was on the phone with? Who did Randy Orton third generation superstar, 14-time world champion, and a 25 plus year veteran. Actually, 26-year veteran, professional wrestling. He has been doing this. It's in his bloodline, and he's been doing this for 25 plus years. Who did he need advice from? Who was he seeking counsel from? Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee. Do you know who that is? Do you? Do you? He is a podcaster for ESPN. He runs the Pat McAfee show. He was a former NFL punter for the Indianapolis Colts. He's won a few Pro Bowls here and there. So he's accomplished a lot. Why does Randy Orton need help from him? He's also a part-time commentator and he's occasionally gotten in the ring. That is the guy that Randy Orton needs help from to get his 15th world title. Kind of like how John Cena last year, and yeah, I said we'd talk about it, how John Cena last year won his 15th world title, beating Ric Flair's record, which had lasted almost 3 decades, 16-time world title champion. He beat Cody Rhodes last year again for that 17th title with the help of Travis Scott. Yes, that Travis Scott. Again, we'll talk about that later. What are we doing here? What is this? And it has not gotten any better. It hasn't gotten any better. That reveal happened 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. It hasn't gotten any better. The final SmackDown, the go-home show for SmackDown is tonight. I don't expect anything. What are we doing here? Like, explain this to me. And you know what? And I said I'd start at the top, but it's probably a wider issue right now. Like, there are some good ideas here, but then execution just completely undercuts everything. Let's talk about the other world title picture, the world heavyweight title picture. So the current champion is CM Punk, and he's defending against Roman Reigns. Now, on paper, this should also be huge. These are two big stars, big names in the business, and there is some history here. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of real life beef that these two actually had going back almost a decade. Roman Reigns, he made his debut as part of this faction called the Shield with Dean Ambrose, who is currently in All Elite Wrestling, a separate company. Wrestling as John Moxley, and Seth Rollins, who is still in the WWE. He was part of that faction. Roman Reigns was not supposed to be in the Shield faction. Punk was the one who came up with the concept, but he did not want Roman in this faction. He wanted another wrestler by the name of Chris Hero, who was wrestling under the moniker of Cassius Ohno. But Vince McMahon was the one who insisted on Roman going in the Shield. When Punk left in 2014, he went on a lot of podcasts talking about the issues that he had with the company. He was tearing down WWE, just tearing into them every chance he got. And one interview that caught fire was, you have to make Roman look really, really strong, which basically turned most of the audience, the fans, against Roman, and he just suffered for it for years. It was multiple issues, but that was a big one that turned a lot of people against Roman and pretty much killed him as a babyface. I'm not saying it was Punk's fault, but it was a contributing factor. So we finally get these two face to face, one-on-one. It was supposed to happen last year, but they decided to do a weird triple threat that involved Seth Rollins, who also had some beef with Punk. We finally get these two together, and this build has not felt hot enough. It just hasn't felt. I haven't felt it. Primarily because, one, a lot of the time Roman isn't there, and from the beginning, because Roman won the Royal Rumble back in February. We're in April now. For the first half of this build, the man was barely around because he is a part-timer, which is essentially that he kind of shows up to Papa rating once in a while or whenever they need him for something, for a big angle. But he doesn't wrestle week to week. He doesn't appear week to week for the most part. So he's not there. And another aspect of it is that whether it's the man himself or it's the company, he just is not interesting unless his cousins and his extended family are involved. Now you understand that, like, a couple years ago, he had a renaissance of sorts for his career when he turned heel and he started the Bloodline faction, which included his cousins, the Usos, and longtime manager Paul Heyman, who had previously been associated with the likes of Brock Lesnar, and before that he was the mind behind ECW. The Bloodline faction ended 2 years ago, and ever since then, Roman just has kind of been dealing with the fallout of it. And then when they finally took him away from Bloodline stuff, it wasn't interesting. It wasn't exciting. They haven't been able to actually make him a compelling character to watch. And the only time this whole feud with Punk got interesting was when the Usos got involved. And the Usos, they themselves also have some history, a long time friendship with. That's it. And they were teasing a return of the Bloodline faction. Now they've kind of tried to build it up in last week, but it's just been a couple brawls and all that, pull apart brawls that I've seen 1,000 times, and there's just nothing here. I didn't even bother to watch this week's Raw. I saw some things, but I wasn't interested. And what are the Usos doing, by the way? The Usos, they were, a couple weeks ago, they were the tag team champions, the world tag team champions, and they lost those titles to the team of Austin Theory and Logan Paul. Yes, that Logan Paul. And for WrestleMania, they're going to be teaming up for WrestleMania. The Usos are going to be teaming up with LA Knight, a wrestler by the name of LA Knight, against Theory, Paul, and I Show Speed. I'm not going to even explain the context. The Usos are in a match against I Show Speed. Yes! Like, what are we doing? And what are we doing? I mean, like the first WrestleMania of all time had Hulk Hogan teaming up with Mr. T, but that's Hulk Hogan teaming up with Mr. T. Maybe this is just me being old. I don't even have a problem with Speed specifically. It's just this is the best we could do here. I Show Speed, and yes, he's a massive YouTuber. My issue is not with his being at WrestleMania or his being involved. It's just really. There's no better way. There's no better way to do this. It's the same thing they're doing with Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll. I forgot to mention that before Pat McAfee even showed up, Jelly Roll, the rapper Jelly Roll, has been heavily involved with this Randy Orton Cody Rhodes thing. Again, I don't have a problem with Jelly Roll. He's a cool guy. He's been actually somewhat compelling on TV, but still, there's like a degree of celebration and a line thing where, like, yes, celebrities have always been involved in WWE and WrestleMania specifically. That's the biggest show of the year. They need that mainstream attention, but it's gotten a bit out of hand. Even with all these celebrities appearing, they have not been able to sell tickets. And again, we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about the women's world title pictures. The women's side, because that hasn't gotten any better. The women's world title match, which has been the champion Stephanie Becker and the challenger who won the Royal Rumble, Liv Morgan, it's been fine. Not terrible, just fine. They've tried to make it personal. They talked about their journeys, about their struggles. There's been a bit of some tension with Liv's faction, the Judgment Day, and it's okay, but it's just nothing that I've seen has made me excited for the match. I know that the two women involved are going to have a great match. They're going to put on a great performance, but the actual build up to the match itself has not been exciting. And the WWE Women's title feud between champion Jade Cargill and Elimination Chamber winner Rhea Ripley is not strong at all. It's not a strong one. Me personally, I love Rhea Ripley. She is one of my favorite breakout stars of the last decade. But this one isn't it. She should be champion, by the way, in my opinion. The SmackDown brand absolutely needs her. But this one isn't here. It's not working. For one, Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley, they don't have any kind of history, any kind of story, any kind of thing that they can tell, which is fine. You can tell a new story, literally, right? This is your opportunity to tell a new story. But then the one that they went about doing it was just weird because Jade Cargill started associating with two wrestlers by the name of Michin and B-Fab, both of whom turned heel and along with Jade ganged up on Rhea and beat her up. And it made absolutely no sense to me because Jade for the last several months has been beating the absolute stuffing out of B-Fab and Michin. They have no reason to associate with her, but they are, and they turned heel, and they've created some kind of faction that they were going to gang up against Rhea in the build-up to WrestleMania. Why? So that one immediately lost my excitement. It lost my excitement. And yes, Michin actually has some pre-existing issues with Rhea, but this was just not the way to go about it. Then you have Seth Rollins versus Gunther. And honestly, this is another case of just like two people just being shoved together because Seth Rollins, he was feuding with The Vision. He was supposed to have a match with Braun Breaker, but Braun Breaker got injured, so that didn't happen. Gunther was apparently supposed to wrestle Rey Mysterio. He's been on something of a legend career ender like run. He was the final matches of Goldberg, the final match of John Cena. He was the final match of AJ Styles. So when Rey Mysterio was apparently injured, there were just this long stretch, several weeks, where it seemed like Gunther, who, again, I remind you, retired Goldberg, John Cena, and AJ Styles, had nothing to do with WrestleMania. So they randomly had him face Seth Rollins. Again, I expect this to be a great match, especially with the people involved. But what is the story? What are we doing here? Why are these two fighting? Yeah, sports isn't this complicated. Obviously, real sports is not this complicated. Two people fight, two teams play each other, etc. But wrestling is built on that storytelling aspect. You kind of have to justify why these people are having a match. It's not as simple as I'm trying to score to get 3 points so I can rise in the ranks and win the Premier League. It's not like that. And even then, you kind of have to have a reason because, teams don't just randomly play each other either. There is an actual reason, even if it's a sports-based reason. There is a reason. So this one, I don't see what we're trying to do here with this. It feels random. This is where we are, but I expect a good match from it. But again, I'm not excited. And I think it's just a problem overall with just like, it's not a roster problem. The wrestlers involved, these are all incredibly talented people who can have good matches, who can have entertaining matches, who can do really good stuff, but they've been let down. They've been let down. The build has just not been good. Their presentation has not been good, and there's too much space, I think, between the Rumble, which is where the road to WrestleMania starts, and Mania itself, because having it be in like February, beginning of February, all the way to like the middle of April, so there's too much time. So now there's a lot of filler in between, and it just isn't it. Like, the only thing that has genuinely felt hot to me has been the build of Obafemi and Brock Lesnar. This has been the money match of Mania for me. It's been physical. It's been raw. Pardon the pun. It's been violent. Like Oba is a new call up from NXT, from the NXT, which is a developmental brand where they bring in a lot of new wrestlers and book them up. Oba has looked incredible. He's looked dominant in every single interaction. He's been an absolute force, and he's also just like me personally. I've been watching this man in NXT for the last several years, and I have been loving him. And of course, he is Nigerian, actually Nigerian, not Nigerian American, actually Nigerian. So that's a big one for me because yeah, as a kid, I kind of had dreams that I let die because anyway. But this one also kind of has me worried a little bit because historically, when somebody spends every single week in the build up to a big match, when they're beating up Brock Lesnar every single week of a match, it typically means that Brock Lesnar is winning. At this current stage of both their careers, Brock Lesnar is what? 49, 50, and the man himself is he's not going to be around here for a very long time. He might honestly, he could literally retire anytime. Obafemi is like mid late 20s. He's just starting, right? He can't afford to lose this match at Mania. He can't. He can't afford to lose this match unless there is a long-term plan. And even then, I don't think he should lose. He should lose here at WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar. Beating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania will make this man, will make him. So I'm really hoping that he doesn't lose. And just the broader picture of all of this is that the actual overall product itself has just been harder to sit through. Monday Night Raw, and Friday Night SmackDown, which are the two main shows where most of the storytelling happens, most of the promotion and build up to WrestleMania and these other big pay-per-views happens. I have not been able to sit through them, which is just absurd to me because there was a stretch from 2022 when Vince McMahon was originally ousted, 2022, all the way to like January of 2025, where I could not miss a single episode. I did not want to miss a single episode. I tuned in every week and I was loving what I was watching. Right now, I can't. I put on an episode of Raw. I can't watch it from beginning to end. I put on an episode of SmackDown. SmackDown especially is just not good. It's not good. It's not a good show to watch. Again, the wrestlers are still great. The people, these are all still the same people with a couple of new people coming in. It's all the same people that I've enjoyed for years. Some people I've enjoyed for years, for months, and it's just not there. I'm just not feeling it. The things that they have these people say and do on on TV it's just been starting to irritate me. And it has been irritating me since the build up to last year's WrestleMania. I talk about John Cena in the year 2025. The year 2025 was John Cena's final year as a wrestler, and they botched it. They botched it. I've already mentioned the whole Travis Scott thing. I mentioned his heel turn with The Rock. First of all, there was no reason for him to turn heel at all. That was his last year as a wrestler. And he announced it in like July. People were excited to watch John Cena in his final year. That was it. Nobody wanted it. Instead, they didn't even get John Cena for half of that year. He had this weird heel turn. So now he had these robotic, pretentious, like emotionless promos where he would whine about, oh, the fans were horrible to him for a really long time. And they were. Wrestling fans, genuinely, especially a lot of older fans, this man for a very long time. It wasn't until maybe like after 2016 or even 17 where people were consistently cheering him and actually starting to appreciate him a bit more. And as he started showing up less and less, that was another thing. But also because a lot of the kids like myself who grew up loving John Cena are adults now, so we're not going to boo him. He was our guy, right? So the heel turn just made no sense. And then they just randomly turned him face after months of, again, terrible storylines, terrible matches. Then Brock Lesnar came back and they had a match at WrestlePalooza, and Brock squashed Cena, just absolutely destroyed him for no reason. There was no reason to go about doing this. Yes, it's Brock Lesnar, but also what was the point? This is John Cena's last year as a wrestler. We don't need this. And then we had some matches. He had a good match with AJ Styles, which was just a tribute to both men's very long careers. He won the Intercontinental title from Dominic Mysterio, Rey Mysterio's son. Then he lost it back like 2 weeks later. And then he had a match with Gunther, and then he was gone. That man was the face of the company from 2005 all the way to like 2014. And even beyond that, when people thought about WWE, if you didn't even know anything about WWE, you would at least have heard of John Cena. Unless you were an older fan, then you would have heard of guys like The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even older, you'd learn about Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, those like for a long time, John Cena was the definitive professional wrestler. People knew and recognized him when they thought about WWE and professional wrestling. And that was the best they could do in his final year as a wrestler. And it irritated me to no end, and I stopped watching. It is why I stopped watching. And somehow the issues with that bled into everything else. And I mentioned before the tickets. They can't sell tickets. We got to talk about that. Like, they have not been able to sell out this year's WrestleMania. There's multiple factors. One, tickets, and this is a business thing now. The 2-day ticket average is around $1,500 to $1,700. Some reports are saying $1,700. Those are like, I'm not talking about. We're talking about front row seats, by the way. The closer you are to the ring, the more expensive that it gets. $1,700. Better become the WWE champion. I should be the one in that ring, triple threat match with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. I should be in that ring. And putting that aside, so the tickets to WrestleMania are insanely expensive. And the WrestleMania is being hosted in Las Vegas, which is one of the most expensive cities in the United States just to visit. And now you have a hotel stay for 2 days. That's not this is supposed to be family entertainment. And families cannot afford to go to WrestleMania. Last Friday's SmackDown, Pat McAfee, while he was cutting one of his heel promos, again, I remind you, this is the guy Randy Orton needed for help. As part of his evil, villainous promo, he announced that WrestleMania tickets are 25% off. Is how desperate they are to get people to show up to this. You have a guy who's supposed to be playing a bad guy, a villain, go on TV and talk about, oh yeah, you people all suck. All you people suck. I hate every single person who's sitting in this building right now, which is why I'm giving you all a discount on WrestleMania tickets. What? And again, take the money out of it. All the stuff that I've talked about, the actual the week-to-week storytelling, the actual things that they are doing with these wrestlers and with these characters. It's not compelling enough. It's not compelling enough to justify the purchase of those tickets, to justify actually going to the arena. Like, one of my biggest dreams is to actually see professional wrestling live, but I've never gotten the opportunity. And now look at what they're charging. And you know what? I have to talk a lot about the Attitude Era. Again, I said I started watching in 2010, so I didn't grow up during that era. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been binge watching 1998, Eyes War 1998. So from the beginning, from January, all the way through all the way past WrestleMania, all the way through to the King of the Ring. Now, in that 1998 road to WrestleMania, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he'd won the Royal Rumble and he was on the path to winning his very first ever world title. The champion at the time was Shawn Michaels, who was the leader of the D-Generation X Faction. And the storyline also involved Mike Tyson at the time, who was just coming off the whole biting off Evander Holyfield's ear. That was a big thing that he was still dealing with. He still couldn't fight by that point, by the way. And as annoying and obnoxious and weirdly elitist as a lot of the older Attitude Era 90s fans can be, I understand now fully, after finally getting to see this stuff live, I finally understand fully why this era is so romanticized. Yes, there are things that have not aged well. The treatment of women is one thing. Like, come on, what are we doing? But it was the 90s, so I don't know, but still, it hasn't aged well the way women were portrayed, and also a lot of racial stuff, like mm, a lot of racial stuff that just would not fly today, and for good reason. But overall, it's easy to understand why this era of professional wrestling was so beloved because everything it had edge. The characters, they were all aggressive. They were everyone understood what they were supposed to be. And at the time, McMahon and a team of people around him understood what this was supposed to be. And every week was unpredictable. It was chaotic. You had to tune in. And part of the reason it happened is because they had to compete with WCW, which existed at the time and was always at one point they had to like wrestle the top spot, the top show. So they had that competition that was always keeping them on the edge. They could not afford to spin their wheels. They could not afford to be lackluster. They could not afford to not be entertaining. They could not afford it. You know, right now, this product, the current product, is trying to tell me that I'm supposed to care about these wrestlers. I'm supposed to care about these storylines. I'm supposed to care about these matches. And it has done nothing to earn it. That's where I'm at. You know, I might tune in for WrestleMania. Again, like I said, there's still some matches that I am interested in seeing, even if the build-ups hasn't been great. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll be completely wrong. Maybe this will be an amazing show, and I'll be happy to be wrong. I want to be wrong. Maybe this will be an amazing show. You know, but right now, road to WrestleMania, I think not. This has been the EEXSport Talk. I have been Gift C Enyadike Jr. If you enjoyed this quite long rant, please be sure to leave a like, a share, comment. Let me know. You know, my fellow wrestling fans, how have you been feeling about WrestleMania season this year? I will see you all next time.